Hi, welcome to another episode of Figs Talks Fights. I am your host, Brian Figueredo, and today I would like to thank you for joining me. We're going to get into the results of UFC Fight Night 167, featuring in the main event, Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz, and in the co-main event, it was Diego Sanchez versus Michel Pereira. So let's start with the main event. Now, Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz is actually a rematch of a fight that happened nearly 5 years ago. And in that fight, Corey Anderson was still prominently just a wrestler and was taking Jan Blachowicz down at will, successfully landing ground and pound and getting the unanimous decision. Now, since then, both guys have turned into completely different fighters. They're both more well-rounded fighters, with Jan Blachowicz getting far better in the grappling department and Corey Anderson getting far better in the striking department, okay? Most notably, Corey Anderson working with Mark Henry out of the New Jersey scene on the East Coast. His hands have looked fantastic as of late. But is it something you want to test against Jan Blachowicz? Seemed like he did. It was a bad idea. This fight officially ended at 3 minutes and 3 seconds of the first round by Jan Blachowicz, landing a brutal counter right hand and following up with a hammer fist to turn Corey Anderson's lights out. Now, this is the second knockout that Corey Anderson has suffered in his career as far as a concussive blow like that. The first coming to Jimmy Manuwa about 3 years ago. And Jan Blachowicz, he looked fantastic last night. So let's get into it. Now, Corey Anderson coming into this fight is coming fresh off a knockout over Johnny Walker, taking place at last year's UFC 244 card, where he took Johnny Walker out with a big right hand and then just kept putting it on him until the ref was forced to separate the bout. So he fell in love with his hands. Here's the problem, though. I don't know how many wrestlers I have seen that have high-level wrestling and then they get that great first-round knockout finish and then they fall in love with their hands and forget what got them to the dance in the first place. I mean, you could go back to even, former NCAA Division I All-American wrestling champion Josh Koscheck starts landing knockouts and all of a sudden he thinks he's a freaking world-class kickboxing champion. Can he put it on people? Of course. Another example would be like a Johnny Hendricks. And to the latest to fall for this trap is Corey Anderson. It was rough to see. Corey has great entries. He's got great doubles. He has a work pace that very few, especially in the light heavyweight division, can keep up with. This guy can go all day. He can shoot a double, shoot a single. He can chain wrestle, but he just wanted to box and make a big statement. Now, I can't blame him, all right? John Jones is in the crowd, and everybody's talking about, including myself, a Dom Reyes rematch against John Jones. One of these guys had to make a statement yesterday in order for everybody to forget about the controversial decision last week and to award one of these guys a title shot. Problem is, Corey just wanted it too bad. He didn't naturally flow through it. So what happened is at nearing 3 minutes in the fight, Corey Anderson just throws a leg kick still in the pocket and does not sidestep before he throws the leg kick. And the best counter for a right side leg kick is to just throw that straight right down the pipe or even come over the top and counter so that when they're landing their shot and exposing themselves, you can catch him clean. The momentum of them throwing in their kick, it's a nasty counter, okay? Something like this, what you'd want to do is sidestep with your left foot coming out on a 45-degree angle and throw the leg kick at the end of a combination. Throwing a 1-2, sidestepping out this way, and then whipping your power with the leg kick behind it so that when your leg kick throws through and that right hand counter is that, your balance is now off the center line. You can move in along this way, and then that right hand counter that your opponent is going to throw at you will just miss the side of your head. Well, Corey Anderson was there right for it and got caught clean. Now, all the props to Jan Blachowicz. he did this perfectly, and it was a vicious KO. I mean, this is the kind of KO that if Corey Anderson doesn't take time off from sparring and jumps back into a fight way too quick, I mean, his chin may never look the same. I'm not going to get overzealous on a statement like that. I'm just saying this is something that he needs to be careful. I mean, once the lid is open on a jar, I mean, you can just keep it. By the time you're done a jar of jam, you can just flick it and the lid will come off. It's kind of how it works with concussive blows. I mean, every time you take that jar off, it becomes looser and looser and looser. I don't want to see that happen to a great fighter in Corey Anderson. So hopefully he can regroup. Look, Corey Anderson, his striking is on point. He just made a mistake. And maybe he was, like I was saying, Jon Jones is right there. He was just a little too quick to put on that spectacular finish and get that title shot. I mean, it's a high risk, high reward situation. Last night, the risk didn't pay off for him. Doesn't mean he can't continue to come forward, make another claim for a title shot, put some wins together, and maybe mix things up a little bit. Corey Anderson is a great wrestler. I was kind of hoping that he would have put it together and mixed it up and made Jan think a little bit so he wouldn't have been too quick to make a counter shot like that, but this shit happened. So Jan Blachowicz, this is 3 fights in a row for him now, okay? The 3-fight winning streak started with taking on Luke Rockhold last year in July, and Luke Rockhold was making his 205-pound debut. A lot of people were just looking past Jan Blachowicz. It's like, all right, this is going to be the guy that Luke is going to steamroll through and just jump right into an immediate title shot. Ain't fucking happening. Now, this is the fight where you got to see that Jan Blachowicz had made some strides in his takedown defense. Luke Rockhold, you could see he was puzzled. Every time he was holding Jan Blachowicz against the fence, it was the strength differential from him moving up from 185 to 205. It was pretty significant that Jan wasn't going to have it. So after defending numerous takedowns from Luke Rockhold, okay, Luke's probably got some blood stuck in his shoulders and in his arms, just getting it out. And then they get into a clinch. Jan catches him with a left hand right over the top as they're breaking the clinch and puts Luke Rockhold's lights out, okay? Now, last November, Jan Blachowicz fought Renato Jacare Souza, okay? And this was another guy coming from 185 pounds to 205 pounds trying to make a quick title shot. Wasn't happening, okay? Jan Blachowicz, his striking looked on point as per usual, okay? And his takedown defense was right there. He even said after the fight, I mean, hey, maybe I could have gone to the ground with Jacare, but probably a bad idea. It was very smart for him to avoid those takedowns, avoid the ground with Jacare, and he walks away with a unanimous decision. Now, coming into this fight last night, okay, he was a little bit of an underdog against Corey Anderson, and if Corey Anderson could have mixed things up instead of just straight kickboxing him, could have been a different story, but all the props to you, Jan. Looks like he may be next, indeed, to fight Jon Jones, all right? I still would prefer to see the Dominic Reyes rematch. That Dominic Reyes did win that fight, but we'll see how things go. Looks like Jon Jones was more than happy to welcome Jan for a title shot at the end of that fight. They were talking to each other. Jan was very respectful about it, okay? He's not falling for any of this shit in the trash talk era, so if Jan does get the title shot next, I'm not going to hate on it. And if that's the route they go, maybe Corey Anderson should take another 5-6 months off and he can fight Dom Reyes and see what happens in that fight. So that's what I thought of it. Moving on to the co-main event. Diego Sanchez taking on Michel Pereira. Now, both these guys were coming off a loss coming into this fight, but Michel Pereira's last loss was a little bit more embarrassing as he took on Tristan Connolly, and he gassed out in this fight. Tristan Connolly took the fight on like a week or two's notice as a late replacement. And he was coming up from 155 pounds. And Michel Pereira was just in there doing way too far flashy moves, literally doing backflips in front of Tristan Connolly. What the fuck are you doing, man? Fight him. He could have won that fight, but he gassed out and Tristan Connolly put it on him and was the rightful winner. Now, last night, was very happy to see Michel Pereira was a little bit more conservative with his flash and explosiveness, okay? He's a very skilled capoeira guy, all right? His takedown, he got a couple of takedowns on Diego. Looked great. Looked like he was winning this fight, and throws an illegal blow, I think with only a couple of minutes left in the third round. Catches Diego Sanchez just right on the forehead, rocks him, okay? And then gets the DQ win. Now, sorry, Diego Sanchez gets the DQ win, okay? Now let's talk about this for a sec. As I was saying in the pre-fight, I was concerned for Diego Sanchez as he left the Jackson Wink camp just within the last year, and now he's working with this gentleman who is his movement and yoga coach, and that's the only guy he has in his corner. Diego was saying that he felt he was the only one teaching himself how to fight at the Jackson Wink camp, and he was just there to help the young guys. Felt like he wasn't getting the attention he needed. Let me tell you this. I'm not in Diego Sanchez's life. I've never met the guy in my entire life, all right? I don't know him, but it's very clear for me to see, okay, from my perspective, he is not in a great place right now as far as fighting is concerned. Diego looked nothing like himself. He was on the outside. He opened up the fight with a backflip, trying to somersault into a heel kick towards Michel Pereira, you know, trying to make a statement like, I'm the original flashy guy here. But he just kept moving around on the outside, circling on the outside, kept putting his hands out like this, which is illegal, okay? Because if a guy walks in, you're going to poke him in the eye. You should be having your hands out like this or having closed fists, okay? You got the open finger gloves. This is dangerous. Eye pokes can ruin careers and definitely change the trajectory of a fight, okay? I wasn't happy seeing Diego do that, and Diego just seemed happy to just circle around and just see what happens, all right? I mean, he did explode in a couple of 1, 2, 3, 4s against Michel Pereira, but it wasn't anything of significance. And him getting taken down by Michel Pereira and not having the scrambles that we're used to seeing of Diego Sanchez, very concerning. What's even more concerning is his advice from his one cornerman, which he should have had 3 cornermen. Okay, you can have 3 cornermen in non-title fights, and you can have 4 cornermen in a title fight. Just make a note of that. He only shows up with one guy, and he gives them 0 technical advice. All he's saying to Diego is, you know what to do. Put it together. Get after him. Show him the heart of a lion. What the fuck is that supposed to mean? The guy needs some technical advice on how to get an entry on a high-level, high-explosive guy that's way larger than him in order for him to implement his game. It was really sad to see. I don't know what's going on with Diego Sanchez, but it's not good, okay? Now, excuse me, Michel Pereira, as I said, in the 3rd round, does land an illegal knee to the head of Diego Sanchez, okay? The ref pauses the fight, brings the doctor in. The doctor checks him out. He does have a bad gash on the top of his head. Blood is flowing down. They do wipe it off, and the doctor says he's cleared to fight. Okay, the ref tells them, look, you have a little bit more time to recover here. There's just a couple of minutes left. Do you want to continue? Diego Sanchez did not look certain, but said very convincingly, no, he DQ'd me. I can't really see much out of my eye, okay? No, we're gonna stop the fight. I can't continue. Now, listen, I watched this fight from a couch, okay? I'm not the guy in the cage getting kneed by Michel Pereira and having to go out and fight him for a few minutes more after that, okay? I'm not the guy that's been in the UFC for the last 15 years like Diego Sanchez has been, okay? So how dare I make a critique like this? But you can see in his eyes, he isn't very convinced in what he said. He didn't really seem happy about his decision. He seemed uncertain. So on the official history books, it's going to show Diego Sanchez won this fight by DQ. Guys, Diego Sanchez does have a heart of a lion, okay? And he has had trust issues his entire career. He got ripped off for a significant amount of money by his ex-manager going back about 10 years ago or so. Okay, he switched camps. He's had a lot of people get in his life and screw him over, and it's created trust issues for him. And now he's trusting somebody who, from my opinion, from the couch, what are you doing, Diego? I really hope he can find himself, find some peace in his life, and if he wants to continue fighting, to try to find that old spirit that he once had, because yesterday was very alarming. Very alarming to see Diego Sanchez in the position he was in. All right, so that's not much else to say about that fight. Okay, Michel Pereira, I mean, look, you did land a legal blow. I understand he was upset about it and made a little bit of a stink, but shit, man, the guy's on the ground. You know what the rules are. I get it. There's adrenaline flowing and whatnot, but at least acknowledge the fact that you made a mistake, okay? And move on with it, all right? I'm sure he'll get some great matchups for it, but just want to say one more thing. Michel Pereira, as much as I was bitching about him before the fight, doing these backflips and running off the cage, he seemed more tamed and measured with his flashiness last night. He could have a great future as a welterweight, so another guy to keep your eyes on. So for the rest of the card, I'll just make some notables. Lando Venata versus Yancy Medeiros. If you didn't catch this card, go back and watch this fight. It is impossible for either one of these men to be in a boring fight. They put it on each other, all right? Lando Venata looked great. Even he's got some great trickery with his stand-up. Even kept looking to his left, giving Yancy a false sense of security to attack, and then it would have a great counterattack to Yancy, okay? It was a win, unanimous decision win for Lando Venata, but it was a competitive fight nonetheless, okay? Also, Mark and Montana De La Rosa made history last night, being the first married couple to fight on the same UFC card, and both of them won, okay? Mark got a TKO in the second round. He was the first fight on all the prelim cards, so congratulations to Mark. And Montana, she got herself a unanimous decision on the main card, so claps and hats off to you both. Great story. I hope you have a bunch of kids and you can rewatch those fights with them. And also, Daniel Rodriguez made his debut last night, UFC debut, against the Dirty Bird Tim Means. If you know anything about Tim Means, tough. Tough is one word to explain Tim Means. Tough and nasty. This guy gets after it. And guess what? Daniel Rodriguez put it on him and eventually got just a standing guillotine choke. This guillotine choke was fucking nasty, okay? Climbed all the way up, had both arteries clogged, had the bicep control, almost like a reverse rear naked choke, but without any hooks in. And Tim Means was tapping rapidly to this fight. Tim Means, like I said, is a tough guy. So Daniel Rodriguez, you must have a hell of a squeeze on you. So that's a guy I'm going to be watching out for in the welterweight division. And speaking of Michel Pereira, I know the UFC likes to put on fights with wins versus wins and losses versus losses. Matching these two up could actually be a great idea. So would love to see that fight. So anyhow, we enjoyed the content today. Please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up or whatever the hell you want to do. I appreciate you being here nonetheless and watching all the way through. Thank you very much. Next week, it's Paul Felder versus Daniel the Hangman Hooker taking place in Australia. So should be another decent card coming out next week. So thanks again for watching and